Chapter 2106. Forcing a Rank 8 to Death. The night wind howled in his ears. Fire-playing Grotto Lord flew in immemorial white heaven. He concealed his traces as he moved. If others looked, they would only see a vague figure moving rapidly. The only thing was that the trail he moved on had high temperature, but wind soon blew the anomaly away. Fire-playing Grotto Lord had rank 8 cultivation level, but in an environment like immemorial white heaven, he still had to be very careful. If he acted more brazenly, he would cause immemorial desolate beasts to attack him, especially those fire path immemorial desolate beasts. They had a huge interest in fire-playing Grotto Lord. Fire-playing Grotto Lord was not weak, of course, but he was not in the frame of mind to bother with such problems. If he wanted to hunt immemorial desolate beasts in immemorial white heaven, he would need to plan and make preparations beforehand. Fire-playing Grotto Lord rushed back to his grotto heaven as he assessed his own body. The ant plague in his body had already been suppressed. Fire-playing Grotto heaven was affected long ago. The goo immortals in the grotto heaven had also been hit by this vicious method. Poison Path excelled in traits like concealment and infectiousness. The Righteous Chi Alliance was right to ask Poison Path experts to participate in the research. The situation is stabilized at least, but Fire-playing Grotto heaven is still in deep trouble. We need a lot of contribution points to salvage it. Fire-playing Grotto Lord was very worried. Fire-playing Grotto heaven's losses were severe this time. Inside the grotto heaven, the largest Firebeard grassland had perished, turning into ruins. The Firebeard grass that had great vitality was gone without a trace. Not even the roots were left. The vermilion flame wolves and red grass horses were also nearly extinct. The ant plague spared nothing. These wolves and horses were all eaten with no bones left behind. Our losses are too severe, but we still need to spend a huge sum to salvage this disaster. Fire-playing Grotto Lord frowned tightly. The Righteous Chi Alliance members paid such a huge price to research and gain some results that could suppress the lingering poisonous ant plague killer move. Even brothers became sensitive when it came to money, not to mention this Righteous Chi Alliance that had barely any cohesiveness. For the groups to survive and resist the powerful Fang Yuan, Wu Shui, and the Variant Human Alliance, they created the Righteous Chi Alliance. Eastern Sea's Righteous Path paid a huge price for this. They would not allow the rest to use these gains without paying a cost. According to the rules set by Righteous Chi Alliance, Fire-playing Grotto Lord had to pay a huge amount of resources or use high-quality true inheritances in exchange for contribution points, which could be used to save Fire-playing Grotto heaven. But what else could he do except that? Fire-playing Grotto Lord sighed deeply in his heart. He was filled with worries towards the present and the future. This is only the first move by that demon Fang Yuan. This is likely just a test, but our clan has already suffered greatly. He will definitely make a second or third attack. Fang Yuan possesses the sovereign immortal aperture. He can annex rank 8 grotto heavens. Those grotto heavens of the Variant Human Alliance are dwindling. He has already annexed many of them. My clan's Fire-playing Grotto heaven is definitely on his hunting list. Or more accurately speaking, all the grotto heavens in the two heavens are now his prey. Ever since Fang Yuan annexed Grand Swine Grotto Heaven and Time Difference Grotto Heaven, he had not stopped annexing others. The Variant Human Alliance had been subdued by him long ago. They could only watch as he annexed their grotto heavens, helpless against Fang Yuan. Many were definitely furious that their homelands were annexed by Fang Yuan, but they did not dare to say anything in spite of their rage. The commotion from the annexing of the apertures was too great. It was impossible to hide. Therefore, Fire-playing Grotto Lord and others clearly were aware of this information. The enemy is too powerful. Our Righteous Chi Alliance is clearly at a disadvantage. If we cannot match them in combat, we can only place our advantage in development. Fire-playing Grotto Lord analyzed inwardly. The grotto heavens of the two heavens had limited space. After countless years of development and accumulation, they had long since reached the point where they had no more development potential. However, Eastern Sea was vast and rich. Even if all these grotto heavens were added together, they could not compare to the size and wealth of Eastern Sea. This advantage was also the source of Righteous Chi Alliance's confidence against the Variant Human Alliance. Even though the latter occupied Xia Clan's territory, they only had a tiny area of Eastern Sea in this aspect. The Righteous Qi Alliance had a clear advantage. Fang Yuan can also tell that we have this advantage. Thus, he used the compound killer move to weaken us. He is definitely not going to stop here. By then, us Gu immortals of the two heavens will become his main targets. Sigh? When will we finally be able to Suddenly, the scene before Fire Plane Grotto Lord changed abruptly. The surroundings were covered in blue fog that trapped him in many layers. Fire Plane Grotto Lord quickly stopped moving. He activated his defensive and investigative methods. The next moment, his expression changed. Battlefield killer move. Who are you? How dare you attack a member of the Righteous Qi Alliance? Come out. Don't try to act mysterious. Fire Plane Grotto Lord shouted, but he only heard a wave of chuckling noises that resembled a child's voice. The laughter spread around Fire Plane Grotto Lord, causing this rank 8 Gu immortal to be unable to discern where the voice was coming from. Suddenly, a child attacked him from the huge blue fog without any notice. He stretched out his chubby little arm and quickly grabbed at Fire Plane Grotto Lord's back. Fire Plane Grotto Lord had already used an investigative killer move, even though its range was restricted to less than half of the usual because of this battlefield killer move. But it was enough for Fire Plane Grotto Lord to detect this child's action. However, Fire Plane Grotto Lord was still too slow. The mysterious child succeeded. Fire Plane Grotto Lord grunted as he was hit by the move. The next moment, Fire Plane Grotto Lord unleashed a fierce attack, and sparks of flames burst out and slaughtered the mysterious child on the spot. The child died, but there was no blood or flesh. He turned into a lump of blue fog. This mysterious child is made from the battlefield, but thankfully, the attack is not strong. Still, my defensive killer move was weakened by this. It has half of its strength left. Fire Plane Grotto Lord started to feel uneasy and anxious. He needed to break this battlefield killer move quickly. Even if he could not, he had to create a hole and communicate with the outside world to seek help. Fire Plane Grotto Lord started to use his methods. He attacked the surroundings and tried to break the battlefield, but it was useless. His methods were like harmless wind. The surrounding blue fog was endless and limitless. From time to time, mysterious children would appear from the blue fog. They were either male or female, having blue eyes. They surrounded Fire Plane Grotto Lord as they attacked continuously. Fire Plane Grotto Lord was clearly able to detect their appearance, but he could not stop them from attacking. Each time, he got hit by them. This seems to be a wisdom path battlefield. It is influencing my thoughts, causing me to act slower and slower. I cannot attack in advance to stop the children. While Fire Plane Grotto Lord was thinking, his expression suddenly changed. He felt that a fire path immortal goo was stolen by the children from his immortal aperture. Fire Plane Grotto Lord quickly destroyed the child, but the surrounding blue fog surged towards him, sweeping the exposed fire path immortal goo away. Fire Plane Grotto Lord chased after it for a while, but could not find anything. Oh no! This is a theft path battlefield. These mysterious children can steal my immortal aperture's immortal goo when they attack. I cannot stay here anymore. It is too dangerous. Originally, Fire Plane Grotto Lord felt that even though these mysterious children could not be guarded against, they were not strong. He could last a long time. But now, Fire Plane Grotto Lord became deeply shocked. His hair was standing on end. His expression turned very ugly. There was a pessimistic guess in his heart. This is a compound battlefield of theft path and wisdom path, or at least, it definitely contains these two paths. I've never heard of such a compound killer move before. If this is a new killer move, then the user is most likely. Fire Plane Grotto Lord thought of a name that he could not help but shudder. Just this name alone made him break out in cold sweat. He wanted this guess to be wrong, but at the next moment, Fang Yuan's figure slowly emerged. Life was this cruel after all. Guyu Fang Yuan. Fire Plane Grotto Lord took in a sharp breath. His eyes were staring wide as he looked at Fang Yuan in a daze. This was the #1 demon in the world. He was smiling and appearing in front of him. This is my new killer move. What do you think about it? Fire Plane Grotto Lord. Obediently hand over your immortal goo and Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. I might allow you to surrender. Fang Yuan said calmly. The surrounding blue fog concealed his body, making his smile even more peculiar and sinister. This battlefield killer move was Fang Yuan's newest creation. Fang Yuan ventured into the territory of battlefield killer moves. The results were quite promising. This killer move used sneak attack immortal goo as the core. It was a compound battlefield killer move that contained wisdom path, theft path, refinement path, time path, and others. After getting the information of fire, playing Grotto Lord's route from Qi Si ancestor, Fang Yuan arranged an ambush here and used this method to test out the effect of his new killer move. Guyu Fang Yuan, I am not your match. Let me consider your request. Fire-playing Grotto Lord had a hoarse voice as he lowered his head. The next moment, blazing flames started to burn around fire-playing Grotto Lord's body with a loud sound. Immortal killer move. Furious red heart flames. Fang Yuan. Within the fire-playing Grotto Lord shouted, "Don't force me. With just one thought, I can burn all of the goo worms and resources in my immortal aperture. Let me off. Give me a way out. Let me leave the battlefield. I will hand my goo worms to you." Fire-playing Grotto Lord said with a distorted expression that he knew that Fang Yuan was vicious and heartless. He tried to use this threat to survive, but Fang Yuan snorted coldly. "Do you think I care about those few immortal goo? Or even the resources in your immortal aperture? Go ahead and burn. Incinerate your entire immortal aperture if you can. That will be a show." Fang Yuan did not take action personally. He vanished into the blue fog behind him. Next, a large number of blue-eyed children jumped out and attacked Fire-playing Grotto Lord continuously. Fire-playing Grotto Lord was extremely furious and sad as the children attacked him. After enduring for a few breaths of time, he growled in anger as the flames exploded around him. He had actually burned himself to a crisp. Chapter 2107. Invading Fire-playing Grotto Heaven. An exposed immortal aperture floated in the air. Its entrance was not open, but it absorbed the surrounding heaven and earth chi. Fang Yuan easily grabbed onto it. His immortal killer move could capture and relocate immortal apertures. It had originated from Blazing Heaven Demon's Firehand killer move. Now, this method had been modified by Fang Yuan into a compound killer move. Its power rose greatly. The effects were shocking. Next, Fang Yuan deactivated the compound battlefield killer move and used heaven and earth travel to leave the place. Soon, the immortal aura leaked, and the surrounding ancient desolate beasts and immemorial desolate beasts were attracted. Fang Yuan could not conceal his aura. It was not his expertise. After arriving at a safe location, Fang Yuan tossed Fire-playing Grotto Lord's immortal aperture into the sky. This was a rank 8 Grotto Heaven. It could only be attached to the 2 heavens. It would not land in the 5 regions. After the Grotto Heaven door opened, it took in heaven and earth chi and quickly settled into this location. But Fang Yuan did not move in. He only sent his immortal aperture's goo immortals to scavenge the Grotto Heaven. During this time, Fang Yuan annexed more Grotto Heavens. His down marks increased in numbers again. The amount was so much that if he entered this unstable Grotto Heaven, he might cause it to burst. Soon, his goo immortals returned. There were no immortal goo, and they only brought very few immortal materials. Everywhere is burning. Everything went up in flames. These are the only resources left. Lord, please forgive us. The newly born heavenly spirit is also trying to destroy everything in the Grotto Heaven. This seems to be the obsession left by that rank 8 goo immortal. His goo immortal subordinates reported. Fang Yuan did not mind this. He let them back into the sovereign immortal aperture. After the Grotto Heaven stabilized, Fang Yuan would forcefully annex this Grotto Heaven. Even if the heavenly spirit was unwilling to, Fang Yuan had a method to suppress the heavenly spirit. He had already modified it into a compound killer move. Fang Yuan's ability at modifying compound killer moves was limited to only usual killer moves and battlefield killer moves. When using his usual killer moves and battlefield killer moves, all the goo worms were inside Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture. With the amplification of the unrestrained heavenly marks, he could unleash the might of a compound killer move AS for ancient battle formations, goo formations, and immortal goo houses. Their goo worms were all in the outside world, without an environment of unrestrained heavenly marks. Even if these methods were turned into compound killer moves, there would be no effect.As. Fang Yuan annexed Grotto Heavens. He thought about the battlefield killer move he used earlier. This killer move was not strong enough offensively. It was focused on combining theft path and wisdom path. But in actual combat, this battlefield killer move's effect was not good. Fireplane Grotto Lord was just an ordinary rank 8 Gu immortal, but Fang Yuan only managed to steal one rank 8 immortal Gu from him. Immortal Gu were too easy to destroy. The Gu immortal could destroy them with a single thought. Even if Fang Yuan exerted his wisdom path methods to the limit, he could only affect the thinking speed of rank 8s. He could not stop all their thoughts, that it was extremely difficult to reach that step, unless there was a huge difference in actual strength. Fireplane Grotto Lord was a rank 8 Gu immortal after all. He had many Dao marks that naturally protected him. Furthermore, he also had decent defensive killer moves. In history, almost no wisdom path Gu immortals could reach this step against other similarly ranked immortals. Looking at it carefully, certain people like Peeping Gentleman, Sect Leader Mei, Finger Deducing Steward, and others had such achievements. Many situations were unique and could not be replicated. But the total number was still less than 5. Even Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was not in this list. Of course, nobody knew if she could reach this step. There were no clear records in history. This showed that it was extremely difficult to suppress all the thoughts of a similarly ranked expert and make them unable to resist at all, even if it was only for a short period. The strongest methods of wisdom path Gu immortals against their enemies were still emotion-based. Thought, will, emotion. These were the three main wisdom path cultivation aspects. In this case, Fang Yuan's compound battlefield killer move did not have much value in actual use. It needed to be modified further. Even the best theories had to be tested in practice, like a combat system. Creating a combat system out of nothing by simply staying in isolation was very difficult. There was a need for a powerful opponent or intense battle of life and death to test if a combat system was really superb or not. Thus, as Fang Yuan considered his own combat system these last days, he felt some gratitude towards people like Duke Long or Spectral Soul. Precisely because of them as reference, Fang Yuan had the qualifications to create his own combat system. After annexing this rank 8 Grotto Heaven, Fang Yuan's fire path Dao marks rose in numbers again. But Fang Yuan was not satisfied. He continued to move. This time, he placed his sights on Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. Immortal Killer Move, Heaven Form. Fang Yuan created a huge entrance into Fire Plane Grotto Heaven through brute force. The heavenly spirit of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven was a rabbit. Because it had devoured a 9 heavens fragment before, the rabbit was dazed and slow. But now, it was jumping around, screeching in fear and panic. The Gu immortals of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven noticed this and became very uncertain and shocked. The heavenly spirit is muddled, but the past Grotto lords have used the killer move humanly flame smoke to help it gain a bit of clarity compared to heavenly spirits of other Grotto Heavens. As long as the Grotto Heaven faces danger, the heavenly spirit will be uneasy. This is a warning for us. When the ant plague occurred, the heavenly spirit became anxious already. In the Grotto Heaven's history, there were several disasters too. For example, when immemorial desolate beasts attacked or when enormous fires burned, the heavenly spirit became uneasy. But we have never seen the heavenly spirit in such a wild mood. Its voice even went hoarse from growling. The immortals in Fire Plane Grotto Heaven looked at the heavenly spirit with increasingly uneasiness as well. The heavenly spirit was becoming increasingly frenzied. Its expression was fearful, and it even slammed its head at the surrounding pillars. Unfortunately, the heavenly spirit was not a real rabbit. It would not faint from this no matter how hard it hit the pillar. Go investigate. We need to get a result. We need to know what the danger is. This danger is very severe. It might lead our Fire Plane Grotto Heaven into the brink of destruction. Quickly contact the Grotto Lord. Only he can make the decisions in such a serious matter. Is the ant plague going to continue intensifying? Fire Plane Grotto Heaven's Gu immortals were very anxious. They quickly got to action. Oh no. Grotto Lord's Life Tablet Gu and Soul Lantern Gu have been destroyed. What? How is this possible? The immortals of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven became dazed. Next, they found a huge hole in the sky. Fang Yuan used Heaven Form Killer Move without concealing himself. He came openly and grandly. If Fire Plane Grotto Lord was still alive, he might be able to use the entire Grotto Heaven to resist Fang Yuan for some time, while waiting for reinforcements. But now, he was already dead. Fang Yuan. It's Fang Yuan. Seeing the person beyond the hole, many of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven's Gu immortals became anguished. Why did this demon come for us? Even more Gu immortals turned pale as they shuddered with fright. Grotto Lord is dead. This demon Fang Yuan might likely be the culprit. What are we going to do? Everyone, we've already requested for help from Righteous Chi Alliance. Now is the time we stake our lives and fight for survival. This is our home, the place where we were born and grew up in. Our friends and family all live here. We cannot run. We cannot let that demon devour our homeland like this. After their initial panic, the immortals gathered their spirits and united to resist Fang Yuan. It is a pity I cannot go inside now. Fang Yuan rubbed his chin as he thought. Looking at the huge hole formed by heaven form, he could only stand outside. He had too many down marks. According to his calculations, this fire plane grotto heaven could not hold him either as long as Fang Yuan went in. With the conflict of down marks, countless cracks would spread from this hole. The fire path down marks inside would be forced to squeeze to the surroundings. Seeing that the Gu immortals were resolved to fight, Fang Yuan smiled coldly as they flew into the sky and attacked heaven form. He opened his immortal aperture to almost the next moment. A group of Gu immortals led by Fairy Miao Yin and Lady White Rabbit flew out of the sovereign immortal aperture, charging into Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. Gu immortals of both sides engaged in intense combat at once. Flames dongade as lightning flashed. Figures flew around in the sky, clashing and parting. Shock waves could be felt at intervals. Killer moves were unleashed like fireworks. Many Gu immortals lost their lives amidst this beautiful show. Immortal killer move. Wondrous hand, profound sound. Fairy Miao Yin wore a pink dress. Her two original arms were white like snow. The remaining 6 were translucent and pink, formed from her killer move. Profound sound spread out, attacking her surroundings in all directions. Once Fairy Miao Yin appeared, she created a huge battlefield that enveloped 3 rank 7 experts of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. After several rounds, the 3 rank 7 Gu immortals got suppressed and fell into a disadvantage. Fairy Miao Yin disregarded immortal essence expenditure. There was a reason for her current desperate attitude. She was once captured by Shadow Sect. She had to work with them and provide clues about Fang Yuan for Fairy Ziwei. There was a clear contrast between her and Lady White Rabbit. After returning to Fang Yuan, she knew she had to perform well to make up for her past mistakes. Fairy Miao Yin wanted to perform well. The other Gu immortals had similar thoughts. Bing Yuan led the Snowman Gu immortals. She sent a wave of frost energy that froze the enemies. Shizong directed the Rockman Gu immortals as they unleashed a large number of falling meteors together, causing huge losses to the enemies. Inkman Gu immortal Emotan Sang was a Chi path cultivator. He waved his hands as a large number of Chi gathered and moved. He attacked and caused a huge commotion, causing the enemy Gu immortals to fall out of formation. Comparatively, the Hairy Man Gu immortals were slightly weaker. After all, the Hairy Man Gu immortals mostly cultivated refinement path, but there were exceptions to this. Golden Fur Immortal Monarch was covered in golden thread-like fur as he held a hammer and charged forward. He had ferocious might, raising the morale of others as well. Strange Hair Grotto Lord was covered in black hair. He activated the incomplete Immortal Gu House Black Emperor building and rampaged all over the place, having already killed 1 Gu immortal from Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. Their Golden Hair Grotto Heaven and Strange Hair Grotto Heaven had been annexed by Fang Yuan, becoming a part of the sovereign immortal apertured as for Langya Sec's Hairy Man Gu immortals. The best performance was from rank 6 Gu immortal 12th Hair. He cultivated enslavement paths secondarily and controlled multiple desolate beasts, creating quite a commotion. Chapter 2108. Slaughtering 100 million people. There were Mushroom Man Gu immortals as well. Even though the Mushroom Man blessed land had not been annexed by Fang Yuan, most of these Mushroom Men had already relocated into his sovereign immortal aperture. Ku Xian Hong was the strongest Gu immortal among them. His poison path methods were extraordinary. It was not long before Fire Plane Grotto Heaven started to lose on all ends. Not only did they have fewer numbers compared to Fang Yuan's subordinates, even when rank 7s fought against each other, Fang Yuan's subordinates were still stronger as Fang Yuan's subordinates attacked. They killed several more Gu immortals of Fire Plane Grotto-Heaven.I. In the end, the remaining Gu immortals lost their morale. They wanted to surrender, but Fang Yuan ordered for them to be killed regardless. Next, they cleaned up the battlefield. Fire Plane Grotto Heaven cultivated fire path primarily. Most of the immortal materials were also fire path, even though some were lost due to the ant plague. Because the Grotto Heaven's Gu immortals did their best to preserve the materials, there was still a large quantity of valuable resources. For example, there were 28 charcoal lakes, distributed all over Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. Every charcoal lake's location was meticulously calculated. There were huge advantages in placing them there. Fang Yuan had once constructed his own charcoal lake, but it was inferior to any single charcoal lake of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. These charcoal lakes were self-producing, especially at the depths of the lakes. A large amount of immortal material fire charcoal was produced. Other than charcoal lakes, Fire Plane Grotto Heaven also had a huge forest, Fire Date Forest. Fang Yuan even found several ancient desolate plant giant disaster blazing trees. This type of tree was covered in raging flames. Nothing could get close to it. More impressively, this giant disaster blazing tree would cause bad luck to whatever life forms got close to it. This was an immortal material that contained fire path and luck path. The two heavens Grotto Heavens of Fang Yuan's subordinates contained a certain quantity of luck path immortal materials at minimum. Fire Plane Grotto Heaven was no exception. It had luck path materials too. Other than these, Fang Yuan also gained a large amount of flames. The largest quantity was date flame. This flame was vermilion red in color. It was condensed into a lump, and the fire was very well hidden within. Even though it was an immortal material, even a mortal could hold it with their hands without getting burned to ashes. Other than date flame, there was also phoenix song flame, black lantern blind fire, elephant tusk flame, firefly flame, flying flame, dragon snake dancing flame, and others. What disappointed Fang Yuan slightly was that even though there were many types of flames, there were none of the rank 9 unique flames of heaven, earth, and human, the so-called 3 flames of heaven. Earth and human were the heaven flame bright light glorious ring fire, earth flame azure divine stone furnace fire, and human flame raging wave rising dragon fire. After collating the immortal materials, he looked at the immortal Gu. There were very few immortal Gu gained. He only obtained 3.1 was a fire path immortal Gu that was heavily injured. It was a Gu worm that was let out. Fang Yuan was very fortunate to have obtained it. The other 2 were an immortal Gu. One was golden in color and large like a mountain. It resembled red copper. The other was small as a thumb. Its body was extremely long, like a soft white noodle. The red copper immortal ant could spit out fireballs, while the white noodle immortal ant could produce large numbers of ants. These were all the products of the lingering poisonous ant plague killer move. When ants devoured the Gu materials within Fire Plane Grotto Heaven, they would continue to refine themselves. Those that were mortal Gu could be elevated into immortal Gu, but Fang Yuan could not guess or estimate what immortal Gu would be produced. From these 2 ants, he could still barely see their origin. The red copper fire ant should have been an arrow ant. Its mouth could shoot out sharp spikes. After shooting 3 spikes, it would be weak. It would not be able to fight even a worker ant. The white noodle immortal ant should be a queen ant. It was huge and had no offensive or offensive methods, but it could rapidly produce worker ants, soldier ants, armor ants, arrow ants, and others. Army ants were just vicious insects in essence, but they could raise their strength from being an ordinary beast to beast king, to desolate beast, to ancient desolate beast, and finally, to immemorial desolate beast level. This just was like the dark web spider in the river of time, which was an immemorial desolate beast, or the tiger-striped honeybee. In The Legends of Renzu, that was also an immemorial desolate beast. But after Wu Shuai's modifications, these ants that the lingering poisonous ant plague produced had undergone a qualitative change. They all became Gu worms. Even though Gu worms also ate food, they were the hosts of Dao mark fragments. The value of a mortal ant Gu far exceeded an ordinary ant or insect. These ant Gu were all tough and strong. They had intense vitality and fighting spirit. 100 ant Gu could easily slaughter 100 ants of the same rank. Most goo worms had fragile bodies that could be easily crushed, but some also had tough exoskeletons and strong vitality. For example, the chainsaw golden centipede that Fang Yuan used in the past. The chainsaw golden centipede had two main advancement routes. Point 1 was the rank 4 chainsaw killer centipede. The other was the flying Vajra centipede, having rank 3, 4, and 5 versions. When goo masters used these two goo worms, the former could slaughter strong enemies while the latter could pierce bones and flesh, drilling into the enemy's body. Even at a mortal goo level, such goo worms existed, like the sword-legged dragon centipede goo. Rank 7 sword-legged dragon centipede goo was 7 li long. It had a centipede body and dragon head. Its countless limbs contained sword path down marks, allowing it to carry tens of thousands of swords with it. Once it coiled around its prey, these sharp swords would attack from all directions, creating bloody holes in the ancient desolate beast. It was very fierce that Wu Shui elevated the essence of his army ants from insect to goo. They gained a huge amount of potential for growth. But this method had huge flaws. The first flaw was the immense expenditure. Originally, ants could breed themselves with just some resources expended. But to create ant goo, goo materials would be expended for the refinement. Other than that, ant goo also needed to be fed. The price of feeding ant goo was many times higher than raising normal ants. The second flaw was regarding the level of rank 6 and above, because immortal goo were unique. Even though there could be countless desolate level ants of the same variety, there could only be one immortal goo of each breed. If there were just a few ant immortal goo, then overall, the earlier army ants with desolate beasts would be easier to form and have greater overall strength as well. However, if I use this method to cultivate them, the new army ants will also be able to expand greatly in numbers. Fang Yuan observed the red copper fire ant and white noodle queen ant as he thought. These two ants were immortal goo, but Fang Yuan could not recreate them. He did not know their immortal goo recipes. These ant goo had successfully ascended after devouring the goo materials and immortal materials in Fire Plain Grotto Heaven. The ant plague was extremely huge, involving almost the entire Grotto Heaven. But only 2 ant immortal goo were produced in the end. The killer move lingering poisonous ant plague contained refinement path profundity. It stood at the apex of the current world's hairy man nature goo refinement technique. Nature goo refinement technique used the natural Tao marks of the outside world to refine goo and greatly raise the success rate. The moment Fang Yuan created lingering poisonous ant plague, his attainment in the nature goo refinement technique already surpassed long-hair ancestor in every aspect. These ants could refine and ascend themselves. It was not just due to the goo materials of the outside world. Most importantly, Fang Yuan was expending his own unrestrained heavenly marks. Long-hair ancestor did not have any unrestrained heavenly marks after all. Using lingering poisonous ant plague, I can nurture a large number of ant immortal goo. As long as I have a large number of ant goo, if I expend a lot of resources, I will have a continuous stream of ant immortal goo produced. Even though immortal goo are unique, after obtaining red copper fire ant, I can still produce ant goo like red copper water ant or yellow gold fire ant. With just a slight difference, the immortal goo would still be considered unique. Fang Yuan made his deduction. He realized that the key obstacle to this was not the uniqueness of immortal goo, but the resources needed. Using this method to nurture ant immortal goo had too high of an expenditure. Refining the 2 rank 6 immortal goo, red copper fire ant and white noodle queen ant, took so much in resources from Fire Plain Grotto Heaven. It was sufficient to refine more than 10 rank 7 immortal goo normally. The efficiency of using the resources was too low. Other than immortal materials and immortal goo, there were also some goo cultivation inheritances gained from taking down Fire Plain Grotto Heaven. The most valuable one was Fire Plain True Inheritance. Even though Fang Yuan did not get it from Fire Plain Grotto Lord, there was the original copy in Fire Plain Grotto Heaven. Fire Plain True Inheritance was a high-quality Fire Path True Inheritance. It had a profound method called Furious Red Heart Flames. Fire Plain Grotto Lord had used it before his death to threaten Fang Yuan to let him off. It was used in his suicide. There was also the killer move Humanly Flame Smoke. This was a Fire Path killer move with human path effects. For Fang Yuan, it was quite valuable. Lord, what do we do with these people? A subordinate Gu immortal asked. Fire-plane grotto heaven was a human grotto heaven. There were over 100 million purebred humans here. If they were all moved into the sovereign immortal aperture, the burden would be immense. Fang Yuan thought about it and gave his orders plainly. Kill them all to construct human C. Thus, the variant human Gu immortals took action and engaged in a merciless slaughter. 100 million humans were all slaughtered. Their bones, flesh, intestines, and soul were collected and classified into different groups of Gu materials. They were transported into the sovereign immortal aperture's inventory. Their human Qi was completely taken by human C. This incomplete, artificial, secluded domain of heaven and earth was obtained from Xia clan by Fang Yuan. In order to become venerable, Fang Yuan would need to get past the heavenly Dao blockade. These human path methods needed elevation to deal with it. After cleaning up the battlefield, Fang Yuan annexed the immortal apertures of all these Gu immortals, before finally targeting Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. He moved most of the resources in the Grotto Heaven into Mini Red Heaven. Because of his constant annexing recently, the sovereign immortal aperture had undergone a huge change. Its development was currently at 80%. The sovereign immortal aperture's Gu material inventory was completely full. More than 10 more inventories were made in succession, be they the Mini 9 Heavens or the Mini 5 regions. They all had many resource points in them, at least hundreds or thousands of them. After careful and meticulous deduction, Fang Yuan finally allocated all these resources to the most appropriate locations. Mini Red Heaven is almost full as well. The sovereign immortal aperture feels packed now. Fang Yuan sighed in his heart. He felt that he was like a hungry fatty recently. He ate too much in a short period. He could not digest it well. Normally, Gu immortals cultivated one path. Their immortal aperture's environment was quite simple and easy to manage. Most Gu immortals did not have a huge immortal aperture. Only Space Path Gu immortals had the largest immortal apertures. Fang Yuan, however, was different. He cultivated all paths. The environment of his immortal aperture was very complex. Almost all sorts of resources could be grown inside the same time. His sovereign immortal aperture was also the largest and most unprecedented aperture. Even a venerable's grotto heaven might not be this big. Thus, there were many things that he had to consider during this development. Chapter 2109, Wu Shuai's Life in Danger. Fire path resources could not be placed too closely with water path resources. Otherwise, they would affect each other's growth. Not only would production shrink, they might even be destroyed. But isolating all fire path and water path resources was also not a good idea. Because fire path resource points also affected each other, they were not completely harmonious. There were also a lot of immortal materials which had two types of Dao marks, like giant disaster blazing trees fire path and luck path. A lot of Gu cultivation resources had Dao marks of 2 paths or more. Some resource points that produced immortal materials needed a lot of ordinary Gu materials in the vicinity for production to occur. Some resources needed specific wind or water to grow as well. There were also resources that needed an opposite environment. For example, Frost Ice Flame was a fire path immortal material produced in an area of dense ice and snow path Dao marks. Thus, Fang Yuan had prepared for this. Long ago, when annexing immortal apertures, he had specially split them up into portions and placed them scattered over the sovereign immortal aperture. All in all, Fang Yuan was mimicking the characteristics of the 5 regions and 9 heavens. For example, Mini Southern Border had many mountains. Fang Yuan chose to put Earth Path resources there most of the time. Or for example, Mini Red Heaven was fire-based, so Fang Yuan placed his fire path resources there. Fang Yuan could now feel the intricacy of the distribution of the 5 regions and 9 heavens. Using this design, most resources could be classified and arranged. It could greatly lower the need for him to make deductions. He could control the influence of these resource points on each other more easily. But it was not enough. Each time Fang Yuan annexed a grotto heaven, he would gain Dao marks of a certain path. With an increase of Dao marks, there would be some influence for the following period of time on the entire sovereign immortal aperture. Earlier, when he annexed Qi Xiang Grotto Heaven, the sovereign immortal aperture gained a huge boost of Qi path Dao marks. Currents started to appear all over the immortal aperture. There was the largest quantity of heaven and earth chi, allowing the sovereign immortal aperture to have no need to open its entrance and absorb external heaven and earth chi for some time. After that, there were profound yin chi, luck chi, blood chi, astral chi, domination chi, life chi, death chi, righteous chi, orchid vitality chi, elderly chi, and other immortal materials. Tao marks affected the entire sovereign immortal aperture, allowing it to produce resources gradually from a blank state. It started with mortal goo materials. After Tao marks accumulated, a qualitative change would occur, becoming immortal level goo materials. These resources were naturally formed as a result of Tao marks. The sovereign immortal aperture was gradually filled up like this. It reached 80% development now. Other than resources, an increase in Tao marks would also affect the production of existing resources. After annexing Fire Plane Grotto Heaven and gaining a bunch of Fire Path Tao marks, the entire temperature of the immortal aperture would rise gradually. Many Water Path or Wood Path resource points would suffer as a result. If he gained Metal Path Tao marks, a large amount of ores would appear in the soil. The fertility of the soil would change, affecting the growth of the vegetation above. If he gained Water Path Tao marks, there would be more rain. Over time, floods might occur. If he gained Poison Path Tao marks, some plagues or diseases might erupt instead of being seasonal. They might spread widely and rapidly. If he gained Transformation Path Tao marks, many life forms might mutate when they grow. Some might have different forms or natures, causing problems to their original groups. Thus, during this period of time, the sovereign immortal aperture had not been peaceful. Many strange things occurred at random times occasionally. Like earlier, many Eastern Sea had eerie winds appearing out of nowhere. Profound eerie winds swept the area, causing small islands to form on the surface of the sea, but the area in which these profound eerie winds blew did not need islands. The Earth Path Tao marks would obstruct the sea waves, while the Soul Path Tao marks would kill the weak life forms and create soul beasts, changing the natural habitat. Fang Yuan initially suspected the two neighboring sea areas. They were right at the core of the profound eerie winds. They were very plausibly the source of them. But after some tests and deductions, Fang Yuan found that the reason was two faraway sea areas. Their Tao marks influenced each other, like the repulsion of magnetic waves, causing profound eerie winds to be created between them. As for situations like wild beast mutation that caused problems to beast groups, the spread of plagues and diseases, the increase of ores that destroyed the homes of rockmen, the burning of forests for no apparent reason, the fall of ice shards from the sky, and others. They happened continuously. All of the defending Goo immortals were extremely busy. They went around taking action and salvaging the situation. Fang Yuan's main body also took action frequently, setting up immortal formations at the important resource points, like he was patching up torn clothes. The boost of Tao marks carry uncertainty. Only time can digest and assimilate such issues. I need to let the sovereign immortal aperture develop and naturally acclimatize to these situations. Originally, the sovereign immortal aperture had a huge space and sparse resources. It was hard for them to affect each other. But now, after reaching 80%, there are too many resources that are closely packed together. Their influence on each other is also not between two resources, but a large group of resources in the vicinity. They affect each other in a chain-like manner. And worse is that I used time difference Grotto Heavens method to construct year essence pools and created different time path regions. Because the areas have varying time flow, my deductions are even more complicated. When I bring in more immortal materials in the future, the deduction difficulty will rise by 100 times. It is beyond my capabilities. Such deduction difficulties were simply too high. Fang Yuan was helpless about it. Furthermore, even if I can deduce the results, I will still need to modify the location of the respective resources. Each time I relocate them, it would be like a huge surgery, expending a lot of my resources, time, and energy. I am afraid that 80% is my current limit. After understanding this, Fang Yuan felt admiration when he looked at the 5 regions and 2 heavens. The 5 regions and 2 heavens had far larger space than the sovereign immortal aperture, but all of their resources were appropriately located. They influenced each other in a harmonious way. Even when the 5 regional walls vanished, when the earth veins merged. Even after the heaven veins merged, these resource points were still unchanged. They were barely affected. I see, this is heaven path. Fang Yuan's body and mind shook intensely. At this moment, he could sense the law of balancing of heaven path deeply. If my heaven path attainment level can rise to master level, I will be able to resolve this predicament and make a breakthrough. I can continue to develop the sovereign immortal aperture even further. What a pity, what a pity. In history, nobody had ever cultivated heaven path. Even though limitless demon venerable created unrestrained heavenly mark, he was still a rule path cultivator. As for paradise earth immortal venerable, he cultivated earth path. Fang Yuan might be the Gu cultivator who had the deepest venture into heaven path. Fang Yuan activated cooking luck pot. Inspecting his own luck, he saw that above the silver-white pillar of light, there were still 3 clouds that were continuing to get larger. But the silver-white light pillar that represented Fang Yuan forcefully grew to around 4 times the original size. It was originally thin and slim, but now it was slightly thicker. This was caused by the annexation of Fire Plane Grotto Heaven. Because Fire Plane Grotto Lord and Fire Plane Grotto Heaven had their respective luck, after Fang Yuan killed and devoured the Grotto Heavens, he also expended some of his own luck. After some time, Fang Yuan's luck would recover and grow even thicker in terms of the growth of luck. Fang Yuan was naturally the winner among them. It seems that my tactic is correct. My development far surpasses the 3 venerables during this period. But, Fang Yuan pondered, he acutely sensed that even though the silver-white light pillar expanded to 4 times of the original, it was no longer as condensed as before. It was quite loose now. The light was also no longer as clear as before. The reason why my silver-white light pillar grew this much is because I annexed many grotto heavens. My foundation rose sharply. Other than that, I also created and modified many compound killer moves. My time path clone also made many rank 8 immortal goo. But these things only reached a quantitative change. Without qualitative change, it is still too loose. For example, the sovereign immortal aperture is still very unstable. The resources are not assimilated into the environment yet. I've only used some methods to forcefully place them here. If I am careless, a disaster will occur. I will suffer huge losses and my luck will fall. And even though I have many rank 8 immortal goo and compound killer moves, I still do not have a proper combat system that perfectly uses them. I cannot link them together. Thus, the silver-white light pillar is loose. Fang Yuan could feel the amazing aspect of luck path once again. Through luck inspection, not only could he understand his current circumstances, he could also inspect his own flaws and weaknesses. With this, he even had the direction that he was going to pursue next. Fang Yuan took a look at the luck of his clones as well. Qi Si ancestor, Zhan Budu, Meng Qiu Zhan, and the rest had increased luck. His connection with Fang Dichang was also becoming clearer, but Wu Shuai's dragon luck was not in good shape. It was actually near the brink of collapsing. What is going on? Don't tell me that after creating lingering poisonous ant plague, it actually led to a bad result. Fang Yuan soon ruled out this guess. He was quite confused internally. Among his clones, Wu Shuai was the safest in terms of circumstances. Qi Si ancestor's true identity was a hidden threat. Meng Qiuzhen faced danger when exploring dream realms. Zhan Budu had already been sent away by Fang Yuan to lurk elsewhere. Li Xiao, Bai was a mortal goo master. He did not have much control over his situation. The time path clone made use of 4 elements square regret blood refinement pool to refine a large number of rank 8 immortal goo. Yet he only had rank 6 cultivation level. If any accident occurs, he would die from backlash. Even though Wu Shuai was also trying to get stronger himself, his main responsibility was to manage the variant human alliance. How could he be in danger? And this was a fatal danger that could cost him his life. Central continent, in an underground cave somewhere. An elderly goo immortal with a reddened nose laughed loudly. I finally got here. I did not waste my effort for the last 10 or so days without sleep. There was a rank 8 goo immortal true inheritance in front of him. The will that had been slumbering for a long time was awake. He looked at the elderly goo immortal. If you want to obtain the true inheritance of myself and my wife, you need to agree to one condition. What condition? The elderly goo immortal squinted and asked. The Gu immortal will sighed. In my later years, I took in a traitorous disciple named Wu Shuai. He actually enslaved both me and my wife. If you want to obtain this true inheritance, you will need to shoulder the responsibility of taking revenge. Chapter 21:10, Golden Bottle Drunken Wine. The elderly Gu immortal's eyelids twitched. He had a certain guess. He asked, "So you are senior green ant ascetic. Your wife must be senior wine fairy?" The Gu immortal will nodded. Indeed. The old Gu immortal let out a breath of air. To speak truthfully, this junior is a Gu immortal of Eastern Sea, Zui Xianwang. Over 1,000,000 years have passed since your death. The Gu immortal Will was slightly stunned before sighing. Such a long time has passed back then. To prevent that traitorous disciple from finding us, we specially hid our inheritance in an extremely concealed area. To think that it ended up like this, that traitorous disciple must have died already. After pausing for a while, the Gu immortal Will thought of something and said, "Wait, Zui Xianwang, put away your defensive method. Let me test the truth of your words. How can I know if you are not one of my traitorous disciples' subordinates that came here to trick me?" Zui Xianwang hesitated for a moment, but did not attack immediately. He was not confident in dealing with the arrangements here, but he spoke the truth. "I do not know if Wu Shuai is dead or not, but the situation is like this." Zui Xianwang quickly explained everything. Green anesthetics will became stunned again. What in the world had happened? Was this still heavenly court? Fate Gu was actually destroyed. Gu Yu Fang Yuan. It was hard to imagine the existence of such a great demon in the world. Truly a misfortune for the common people. Green anesthetics will only accepted the facts after a long time. To think that the world became like this after 1,000,000 years. Fate Gu was destroyed. Even Duke Long lost and died. Whether that Wu Shuai actually revived, or if he is just Fang Yuan's clone is no longer important. Since that Fang Yuan inherited Dragon Palace, he will also inherit this grudge. Green anesthetics will said firmly. "So Zui Xianwang, are you willing to oppose Fang Yuan for this true inheritance?" Green ants will asked. Zui Xianwang was silent for a long time before taking in a deep breath, gritting his teeth. "I am willing to do that." "All right, we will make the agreement." According to the instructions of Green Ant's will, Zui Xianwang made his vow. "Accept this inheritance. The two of us put all our effort into it. We created a killer move called Golden Bottle Drunken Wine. Golden Bottle contains green ants. Drunken wine dilutes dragon chi. Army ant was created by me. I hid the one weakness of these ants extremely deeply. That traitorous disciple had no idea all along. As long as you use this Golden Bottle Drunken Wine killer move, you will be able to send the army ants into chaos and cause a backlash on the user. Most importantly, this is a food path killer move. It is hard to guard against. So Senior has prepared for it." Zui Xianwang's eyes shined with bright light. "I cannot stay in this place for long. Senior, please go into my immortal aperture. You can inform me of the remaining information later." Okay. Green ants will flew into Zui Xianwang's immortal aperture. The latter took all the inheritance away and left. Zui Xianwang only took a glimpse of the inheritance details before feeling great joy internally. This inheritance contained green anesthetics enslavement path inheritance, as well as wine fairy's food path true inheritance. The value of the enslavement path true inheritance was not high for Zui Xianwang, but the wine fairy true inheritance was simply too valuable to him. "It was not a waste of my effort to come here. It was worth it." A smile appeared on Zui Xianwang's face, but the moment he left the place and arrived in the outside world, his expression immediately changed. A battlefield killer move had been set up. It activated at once and trapped Zui Xianwang. Heavenly Court. Qin Ding Ling. Zui Xianwang was shocked to find out that Heavenly Court's Gu immortals were surrounding him. The leader was a female immortal. She had a tall nose, thin lips and eyes, a body covered in golden armor. Her legs were long and smooth. She wore a white cape on her back. She radiated an elegant and noble aura. She had an air of indomitability. She was the current leader of Heavenly Court, rank 8 luck path grade expert. Qin Dingling. Zui Xianwang's heart sank to rock bottom. He broke out in cold sweat. "It seems that I will lose my life in this fight." Thoughts flashed rapidly in his mind. Zui Xianwang gritted his teeth and cupped his fists. I am willing to contribute all my inheritances. I will make contributions to the righteous path. Qin Dingling smiled brightly, emanating with heroic aura. Green anesthetics and wine fairies' inheritances are good. But is our heavenly court so greedy? We are the righteous leaders of over 3 million years, the #1 superforce in the world. Since you had the fortune to find this inheritance, then it belongs to you. Please do us the honor, sit down and have a cup of tea. Saying so, Qin Dingling sat cross-legged in the air. She took out cushions, a table, and cups. Zui Xianweng sat down without a choice. Qin Dingling personally poured tea for him. Tea fragrance spread out, but Zui Xianweng felt his heart turning cold as ice. His entire body was shivering. His cold sweat could not stop pouring. What status did Qin Dingling have? She was actually treating an Eastern Sea lone immortal like Zui Xianwang in such a respectful manner? She certainly had huge motivations behind this. Feel free to drink it. Qin Dingling stretched out her arm, smiling as she pointed. Zui Xianwang had no choice but to take a sip. He immediately placed the cup down. He asked while faking calmness, I wonder what Lady Qin wants to say to me. The smile on Qin Dingling's lips became even wider. She spoke casually. Haven't you already guessed my intention? Zui Xianwang, you are a smart person. No need to be so pessimistic. In the current world, even though demons have the upper hand, it is only temporary. Even throughout the history of millions of years, the righteous path has been dominant for most of the time, while the demonic path can only hide at some corners. We are currently in a special era, so some geniuses will wreak havoc. Don't think that they are domineering and overpowering. They are merely the pioneers that will pave a road for the venerables ahead. Zui Xianweng lowered his head, not daring to make eye contact with Qin Dingling. His arms were placed on the table as he clenched them uncontrollably. His palms were covered in sweat. In this tough situation, no matter what overbearing request Qin Dingling states, I have no choice but to agree to it. Zui Xianwang sighed in his head with great sadness, but Qin Dingling took out some evidence immediately after. Not long after, star constellation Immortal Venerable will revive and return to Heavenly Court. She will lead the rise of Heavenly Court once again. Zui Xianwang saw the evidence and became deeply shocked. Star constellation Immortal Venerable's revival? Qin Dingling smiled. Fake Gu has been destroyed. Even venerables can be resurrected now. Demon Immortal Qi Ju is the best example now, but he has already been suppressed by my Heavenly Court. If even Demon Immortal Qi Ju can revive, how can our venerables not do so? Our Heavenly Court has 3 venerables throughout the world. Which superforce can rival us? Zui Xianwang stared in a dumbfounded manner. Thoughts started to collide rapidly in his mind. He had already decided to say yes, but after seeing proof of star constellation Immortal Venerable's revival, the balance in his heart was tilted towards Heavenly Court. Even though Fang Yuan was strong as the #1 demon, he only had pseudo-venerable battle strength. He could not compare to a venerable in the millions of years of human history. There had only been 10 venerables. Each one had shown their invincibility in their respective eras. Venerables were invincible. No matter how many pseudo-venerables there were, they could not match a venerable in the end. While Heavenly Court had the most number of venerables, primordial origin, star constellation, Genesis Lotus. Other than that, the only other superforce that had a venerable was Longevity Heaven. Zui Xianwang's expression became calm gradually. I am willing to work for Heavenly Court, he said in a solemn tone. Let's set the agreement. Qin Dingling shook her hands. No need for that. With that Fang Yuan's ability, he will notice if we make an agreement. Furthermore, you need to return to Eastern Sea and join the Righteous Qi Alliance. We will not set an agreement. Zui Xianwang was stunned. Qin Dingling added, write me a copy of the true inheritance. Heavenly Court will try to provide you the relevant immortal Gu. Zui Xianwang was stunned again. He sighed in his heart. No agreement, and they are also giving me immortal Gu? Qin Dingling waved her hand again. You can leave now. This subordinate takes his leave. Zui Xianwang left the battlefield with completely stunned emotions. It was truly unbelievable. He was freed just like that. What Zui Xianwang felt was deep admiration. He started to admire Heavenly Court from the depths of his heart. This is the caliber of the #1 force in the world. Qin Dingling is not afraid that I will not follow the agreement. With this attitude, she clearly doesn't think much of the inheritance. I am merely just one of her casual pawns. If I do not follow the agreement in the future, unlike Fang Yuan, can't Heavenly Court easily deal with me? Zui Xianwang was filled with a chilly feeling internally. While watching him leave, Fang Zheng could not help but ask, Lady Qin Dingling, we're letting him go like this? What if he goes to join Fang Yuan and betrays us? Wouldn't we be giving this inheritance to Fang Yuan as well? Are we going to give up this method to counter Wu Shuai? Fang Zheng was very familiar with the content of the inheritance. It turned out that Heavenly Court had found this inheritance long ago, but before taking it, Qin Dingling had some intuition. Her instincts told her to not take the inheritance. It would be better to make her move 3 days later. Qin Dingling followed her instincts and waited for 3 days, finally trapping Zui Xianwang. At this point, she realized the meaning behind her intuition. Qin Dingling smiled. Fang Yuan possesses the sovereign immortal aperture and has annexed many grotto heavens. He even has Paradise Earth's inheritor and the variant human alliance under him. We cannot estimate the speed of his growth at all. If we set an agreement with Zui Xianwang, it will leave a huge piece of evidence behind. However, when Zui Xianwang drank the tea, I had already used my method to influence his luck. This will cause him to become enemies with Fang Yuan without doubt. Fang Zheng was not convinced. He held on to his beliefs. Even so, I feel that we should gain a complete hold of this inheritance and use it as a trump card against Fang Yuan. This Zui Xianwang is just a lone cultivator of Eastern Sea. Qin Dingling chuckled. You are underestimating Zui Xianwang while also overestimating the value of this inheritance. Zui Xianwang is a person who can endure hardship. He is a wise man who knows his circumstances. He possesses one of the 3 pools in the world, wine pool. He is a food path expert. The inheritance of his lineage has always been passed down very stably, while his luck is also very deep and sturdy. Food path is powerful, while Zui Xianwang cultivates food path solely. He can almost be considered a representative figure of this path. This has significant meaning. As for this inheritance, Qin Dingling shook her head. In my opinion, the most valuable thing is not the killer move golden bottle drunken wine, but that human path wine drinker immortal goo recipe. This inheritance that green antiseptic and wine fairy created together contained a human path immortal goo recipe, wine drinker goo, similar to hero goo, scholar goo, craftsman goo, and farmer goo, except that it was not at the mortal level. It was an immortal goo.